Success is in the eye of the beholder. So what I find is success for me was not working for somebody else and having freedom of time, money in my life so that I did not have to answer to somebody else. That's my version of success. Now, everything I do now, since then, we got 30 plus properties, 750 apartment units. We have hotels that we invest in. We have businesses, multiple businesses. All that stuff is because I have 40 plus hours of my life not working for somebody else to build more businesses for myself.
Dustin Heiner, welcome to the root of all success.
What's up, Jason? Thank you so much for having me on the show. I love that, when you're podcasting, you meet great people. And so that's I've been podcasting since 2016, but started investing in real estate, which got me to be able to have more time and be a successful employee. But thank you so much for having me on the show.
You're one of the few guests that I've had on the show who also has a show that's been recording longer than me. I've been doing this since 2020, which is not altogether that long, 5 years or so. But you congrats on the longevity of your show, which you just recorded me on your show. And it's called, tell everybody about your show.
Yeah, Master Passive Income. And the premise is you buy real estate that makes you money without working. And I started in 2016, and it was really me, like a solo show. I rarely ever do interviews. It's me just coaching how to do this stuff. But yeah, so Master Passive Income is more of a passion project because I make my money through real estate. And then I have plenty of free time. I said, let me help other people to do it as well.
Well, today we're in a studio that is not yours or mine, and we're in it's live or live.
Live
100. I always, because I'm not as familiar. Live 100 with Jason Yarusi. So if you're looking at this on YouTube, you can see his sign behind Dustin over here. So I was on Jason's show earlier today. So if you want to go check that out, go check that out. Go check out masterpassiveincome.com. You can check out Dustin's show. But let's get into you. So this is your story. So you left a very secure job at age 37 to begin real estate investing full time. So what pivot happened at that moment in your life that gave you the courage to go do this?
Well, I didn't start there. So 37 years old, I had enough properties to quit my job. But just like everybody, I was taught, go to school, get good grades. Then you take those good grades and you go to college, university, and you spend thousands of dollars into debt, and you hopefully get a piece of paper that's called the degree, and you go shop around to other companies or you try to get a career. So I'm doing that exact same thing. In fact, I get the most stable, secure job you could ever think of. It's risk-free, working for doing technology in a local county government in California. So technology's not going away, California, and the government's not going away. So I get the most stable, secure job, but I bought one rental property. In 2006, when I first started investing, I bought one property, and that property is making me money in passive income. I didn't work. My property worked for me.
How much money is it making?
$317 a month.
Okay.
Yeah. And back in 2006.
Because I think people think, well, if I go to real estate, I got to make $3,000 a month. And that's why they don't do it when they're like $300 a month. What's that? So sorry to interrupt, but I thought that's an interesting point.
It is. And the reason why $317 a month was I didn't do any work. My properties did it for me. But with that, like, people might think, okay, we need to have a lot of money. Well, we'll get there. So I bought one property, and then life started getting away. I knew I needed to be an investor, but my wife and I started having kids, and we had kid after kid after kid. And this is really what shoved me into investing in real estate. So when my wife had her fourth child, I went on paternity leave. That's where the dad stays home with the mom, changes poopy diapers and all the good stuff, and bonds with the baby. Well, I go back to work. In that same week, I get back to work after just being off for 2 weeks, my baby being born on a Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon. I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog. She says, Dustin, would you please come to the office? I said, sure. And I hung up the phone. And I thought for a second, why in the world are they calling me the office? Like, this isn't normal. And I've seen plenty of movies. Friday at 3:30 is not a good sign. And I started thinking, I might be getting laid off because some rumors or some rumblings going on in the county that there could potentially be layoffs because it was 2008, 9, 10. So I can't remember exactly. It was like 2009. And so I immediately shook it off, though. I said, there's no way I can get laid off because I have great seniority here. My bosses think I do a great job. Well, I get up and I walk down the hallway to my boss's office. Well, Jason, this hallway isn't very long. In fact, it's kind of short. But every single step that I took, it felt like the hallway got longer and longer and longer because it felt like, I was realizing I could potentially lose my job. So the weight was just trying to crush down me. Well, I get down the hallway and I turn the corner and I see my boss's door. His door's closed and I see his secretary there. Super sweet, nice old lady. And she says, Dustin, would you please have a seat? So I go and take my seat, and she's trying to console me with her eyes, trying to sheepishly grinning at me because she knows everything about what's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. So I take my seat and I start thinking about my life. If I lose my job right now, that entire plan that they told me that I need to do, follow, did I just waste my life doing this? And then I realized, oh my goodness, we just had our fourth child. If I can't provide for my family, does that make me a failure as a father? Does that make me a failure as a husband, as a man trying to provide for his family? Well, as I'm sitting there, my hands get all clammy, my forehead gets all sweaty because the nerves are just crushing me. Well, the door to my boss's office opens up, and out walks a coworker of mine with a piece of paper in her hands. She's noticeably distraught, noticeably upset. She's not necessarily crying, but you can tell her world has been rocked. She passes by me. My boss says, Dustin, would you please come in the office? So I get up and I go into his office and I get laid off. And remember, this is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government, but I did. So I take that layoff notice. And this is the reason why I tell the story. I get that layoff notice and I go back and I sit at my desk just getting laid off. And I realize two things. Number one, I need to make sure this never, ever happens to me again. I need to make sure that nobody has the ability to take away my ability to feed my family. So right then and there, I started looking for another job, really blessed, praise the Lord, to find another job in the same county, a different department, wasn't having those issues. But the second thing I also realized whenever anybody asks the question, we all get this question, what do you do? I would reply that my value comes from my job. Well, I work for the county. No, my value doesn't come from my job. My value comes from my God and from myself, from my family. So right then and there, I started telling every single person, I am an investor. Now, it may so happen that 100% of my money comes from my job. That's now my part-time job. I'm a full-time investor. So fast forward the story. Started buying property after property after property, each one making me $250, $350, $500 a month in passive income. I still own them. And after 30 plus properties, I realized, why am I working here? Like I'm wasting my life doing here. So last part of the story, I went to my new boss, good boss and all. I said, I'm laying you off, jokingly. And we both laughed. And he said, Dustin, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't have to do anything. I own real estate that makes money for me without working. Last part of the story, I would walk to and from my car to my office 1.5 miles every single day, back and forth. I've done this 1,000 times because I was working downtown, too frugal to pay for parking. Well, I felt like I was walking on clouds, walking home to my car for the very last time because I knew I would never, ever need a job again. And this is what I want everybody to realize. So if you're listening to this, realize that you are worth more than anybody could ever pay you, because you'll realize this. Your boss is paying you just enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much money it takes money out of their pocket. If they paid you what you're worth, they would probably go broke. So instead, my opinion is create investments, create businesses, do other things that you put your own value out there and you get paid for that 100% of the value. So I'll pause the story because you probably got plenty of questions.
So what you got laid off from the first job. You only had $317 in income, passive income. So you went and got another job.
I did.
And then how many properties did you own when you finally laid your boss off?
It was like 21, I believe. 21
properties.
Yes.
Do you mind telling us how much passive income you had?
So I'll say it this way. My wife, she told me from the very beginning, you're going to be doing this podcasting thing, coaching people. Can't tell them how much we can make, but you can give them an understanding. Yeah. And this is how I realized I could become financially independent. So I asked my wife, how much money do we need for our expenses every single month? And I remember the number, $4,200, mortgage, food, all, it's in my brain, $4,200 a month. Yeah, exactly. And so I said, okay, if I had one property made me $300 a month, well, let me break it down easier. One property that made me $250 a month, that's $3,000 a year. Well, that's not a lot, but it's better than nothing. In fact, it's passive. I don't do anything. 10 properties is $30,000 a year. That's $2,500 a month. 20 properties is $5,000 a month. All I had to do 20 properties, and I'm like $60,000 $1,000 a year. Yeah. And then that's the minimum. I have properties making me $1,000 a month now or more because as over time, you make more money in rents. So for me, once I got to 21 properties, I'll say, so I make a lot more money now, but back then it was probably around $10,000 a month. And then I got enough courage. I was like, okay, we have that much money. Cause when you leave a quote unquote risk-free, a stable job, because I know that it's more risky to work for somebody else because I got laid off. You same thing. It's the exact same story with you. You got laid off. It's more risky to work for somebody else. But with my business, and this is something that I love because we talked about business. I love that I have a business that owns inventory. One thing that if you hear me say anything when I'm coaching anybody, stop being an investor. If you become an investor, you're going to lose money. You need to be a business owner. And then that business owner owns inventory, and our inventory is our real estate that makes us money every single month.
Family of 6?
We have 5. Thank you. Oh, close. Yeah, we have 5 now.
So
Yes.
family of 7.
Yes.
You had a full-time job, but now you're doing real estate. Do you think that what you went through has shaped your investing ideal more than the average investor?
Well, yes. And the reason why, so in 2006, I was watching, your employee. So you go to work and then you watch TV. And so I was watching late night infomercials. This guru came on and said, hey, we're going to come to your town, teach you how to invest in real estate for free. So I went. I was so excited. Went to this free 2-hour seminar. It was all hype, all sales pitch. And then they said, it's $1 million, but today it's only $1,000. So I ran to the back of the room, paid that money. Fast forward story, just got taken for a ride, but I took what little they taught you. And I bought my first property. But this is what really shaped me to where I'm at now, where I say, stop being an investor. They taught that you need to be an investor. That property is your business. No, what happened was I bought that first property, followed what they told me. My property manager started stealing from me within 6 months. It was horrible because I didn't know what I was doing. But if I would have hung my head and said, oh, this doesn't work, I wouldn't be here today. I also realized I love starting businesses. I've had a number of businesses. And I thought instead of looking at my property as my business, how about I create a business that then owns the inventory? Because I did it the wrong way and my property manager started stealing from me. So I said, instead, before I buy a property, I build the entire business, all the people that are going to work in the business, make sure I vet them, qualify them, make sure that they're the right people. And then they're going to be the experts telling me which property to buy, which one to not buy, how much it's going to cost to fix up, how much it's going to rent for. And so that shaped me. When my property manager started stealing from me and I realized how to do it right, then I switched it from being an investor, which you need to stop being an investor. You need to become a business owner.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
I finally got it. It's the brand new Relay credit card. So check it out. I'm gonna do a little unboxing for you so you can check this out. So here we go. Nice little case, kind of like the American Express. They're not playing. They're doing it right. Oh, look at this. There's a quote right inside. It says, "Success is having to worry about every damn thing in the world except money." Johnny Cash. That's pretty good. I've not heard that one. Oh, this is nice. A little thing on the back, up to 1.5% cash back, no annual fees or interest, 30-day billing cycle. And there it is. It's the Relay credit card. It's a Visa. So I'm not going to show you my number, but there it is. Look at that. Boom. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/relay.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
So now you own masterpassiveincome.com and you run the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, Rubicon.
Yep.
What was it about doing those that inspired you to, I want to teach other people how to do this?
It came about in 2016. I was quitting my job and I had so many people ask me, because I'm not working anymore. They're like, how do you make money for your family? I invest in real estate. Then I had friends and family members all ask me, well, can you teach me? The second question always came, can you show me? And so I started showing people and I realized 2 things. Number one, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun because I was helping another person get what they wanted, passive income. But number 2, I had extra time. I had so much extra free time. There's only so much golf I could play, or I love going to the gym. There's only so much that I realized, let me combine those 2. So fast forward, I wrote a book because I had people asking me the same question. It's the same questions, like how this and how that. They're great questions, but they're beginner questions. I thought, how much better if I wrote a book and then just start giving that to people, which is what I did. And I said, once you read this, you're going to understand the whole business model, the framework, and then I can help you more intuitively, like where you are, coach you through the process. Fast forward, started the podcast. We're like 2.2 million downloads now. We have coaching courses in the conference now, coached thousands of people to invest in real estate, all because I personally found a way to invest and then had extra time, and then I enjoyed it. So in the end, I find service to other people makes me more money and makes them more money. It's a win-win-win. So every business that I create now, I think, how can I serve more people? Because the more people that I serve, the more money I make, and the more money they make, and the better their lives get.
The road to entrepreneurial success is rarely smooth. And I know that you already illustrated one major problem with your property manager stealing from you. But were there any other obstacles that you overcame during your early years of investing that you had to push past to get to where you are today?
So back in 2006, 7, 8, 9, when I first started investing, there wasn't podcasts. I mean, there were some books. There wasn't really any good coaching because all the coaching, high dollar, low value, like 80 grand that you would have to pay for this quote unquote coaching, but like $2,000 worth of value is horrible. So I had to do it from the school of hard knocks, like literally figure it out every single step of the way. And I realized that I spent so much money doing it the wrong way and figuring out how to do it right. Give you an example. Property manager number one, obviously she started stealing from me, and I had to figure out how to get her out, fire her, and then find somebody else to get back in. But that's just one example. Another example is I thought that, okay, I bought a property and I had no idea that I needed to find the right experts. I had people in place, but as I was realizing I got to build a business, there were things that, like, let's say an electrical in an entire house needed to be updated. Like the city code said, if the electricity was off for a year, it has to be re-inspected and it has to be brought up to code. And so back in 2009, 10, there were a lot of properties sitting vacant because, foreclosures and all that sort of stuff. So I was buying these homes and I didn't know, because I wasn't asking the right question. I didn't have the right experts. I was just doing it on myself, that there were two properties I bought at the same time. I had to do like a $5,000 redo of all the electrical on each property at the same time.
Where was this?
This was in Ohio. So I lived in California at the time. And in California, 2006, you couldn't buy a house and rent it out and make money. So I figured out I got to go out of state. So now I invest in Ohio, Texas, Arizona, Tennessee, and Indiana. Because once I figured out that I got to create a business that has inventory, it's like, man, I could do it again. So I duplicated it over and over and over again, building a business. And then remember, that business owns the inventory.
So successfully unemployed, which is on your shirt. For those of you not watching this on YouTube, you got to check it out. It's got a shirt, t-shirt. There's probably swag somewhere in here. You can tell it. But I love that because it's radical, but it's also inspiring because we entrepreneurs are unemployed, hopefully successfully. How did embracing that mindset really make you who you are?
Well, what it comes down to, so I've heard another term that somebody said, they would see my shirt or they would hear the term successful unemployed. They say, oh, I'm unemployable. And I'm like, I'm not unemployable. In fact, I would pay Warren Buffett to work with him. Like, I wouldn't want to get money. I'd like, how can I be around you? Just like we have your intern, Carson, there you go, Carson. Your intern's literally sitting right here, and he's like, man, I just want to be in the room around these awesome people. So I'm not unemployable. Like I said, I would pay to work with Warren Buffett, which would be, experience, knowledge, and everything. But with that, the idea of becoming successfully employed, finding a way to make money to provide for myself and my family without working for somebody else, that was the vision that I had. Was I wanted freedom. It's not that I wanted a lot of money. In fact, money's fine, but I'm not driven by money. In fact, I live in a regular size house. I just wanted freedom in my life to do whatever I want. But now the great thing is, if you remember a couple of minutes ago, I said, now I figure out how to serve people. When I serve more people, the more money I make. I kid you not, I make a lot of money now. But it's because I figured out ways to serve people to get them what they want. And when they get what they want, they're like, man, Dustin, just here, let me give you more money because it helps me, them. They're thinking that. I just want to be around you. And in fact, we coach thousands of people now. My students have become coaches now at Master Passive Income, which is such a blessing. But I get on coaching calls with all of our groups or all of our students, and they, at the very end, they thank me for my time. Just like with you, with your coaching, they thank me, Dustin, you don't have to do this because you got your real estate, but thank you so much that you spend your time being here. And in the end, what I found, one quick last thing, because I want you to chime in. When I bought my first property, it was a great accomplishment for me. It was great, but I needed another accomplishment. 10, 20, 30, like I just kept needing more accomplishments. When I quit my job, it was another great accomplishment. I didn't feel fulfilled. But when I helped my first student to buy their first property, they were ecstatic. It was a great accomplishment for them, but I felt fulfilled. I felt like I helped another human being get what they want. And then when they quit their job or whatever their, goals are in life, now I've had thousands of students now, I get so much more fulfillment seeing them succeed rather than me doing it. And that's all I seek after now, because in the end, we all make more money. Our lives get better.
Yeah. Now you tried other things like you had graphic design, skateboard manufacturing, even running a pizzeria.
Sure
So
did.
how did all those other experiences shape your view of real estate investing?
So each one of those, if you think about having a business, those other ones like the graphic website design, skateboard manufacturing, I'm glad you know. I didn't even say that. You had to do your research. And the convenience store, like all those things, they are you're working a job, but you own the job in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the shift in perspective I have now is how do I serve more people? And this is how I explain it. So if you're working for a boss and they've got, let's say, 500 employees, not employees, sorry, customers, 500 customers, you're working for your boss, you're not serving 500 people. You're serving your boss. That's one person. You can only make so much money when you're doing that. Now, if you're the owner of the company and you're serving 500 people, you're going to make more money because you're serving more people. But your time is limited. What if you started a business that you could serve thousands or hundreds of thousands of people? And in the end, the more people that you serve, the more money that you're going to make, and the more that the people that you're serving are going to be fulfilled. So for me, when I realized that all these other companies that I own, they were active income. Like I had to work. I didn't know like exactly being an exiter. I didn't know anything about that sort of stuff. And so I was literally just building myself into a job. Now, instead, my shift is how do I make this passive? How do I get the right people in place? How do I make sure I'm making passive income? Just quickly, one quick last thing. When we buy one property, the reason why I say stop being an investor, be a business owner, is because investors, they don't necessarily go for cash flow. I love cash flow. Just like if you're going to have a candy bar business where you can buy a candy bar and you knew all day, every day, you can sell it for $1, but you could also buy it for 50 cents. You're like, great, I'll sell as many as I can. But the great thing about real estate investing is you make that cash flow. But what if you didn't have 50 cents? Well, if you didn't have 50 cents, maybe it costs you 25 cents to borrow 75 or 50 cents total. You're out of pocket 75 cents. You sell it for $1, make 25 cents. But what you would not do, you would not buy it for $2 and only sell it for $1. And that's what investors do. They start thinking, well, I'm just going to get hope for appreciation. In fact, in 2008, when the crash happened, I made more money where everybody else was going bankrupt because they were investing for appreciation. I made more money because sadly, foreclosures, people would not own their home. They could not own their home. So they became renters. My pool of renters went up. I made more money in passive income because there was more renters. All that to say, when you become a business owner, focusing on cash flow, because appreciation will come. That's going to be great. But in the end, when you make sure you're making money every single month, you're a business owner.
What do you think is the one key that has helped you unlock success more than anything else?
I would say determination and perseverance, like pushing through, because there are so many times, and you know this, being a business owner, being an investor, there are going to be roadblocks. And what I found, the more that I become a problem solver, push through these problems, because I think anybody who's an entrepreneur, business owner, investor, but you should be a business owner, you're a problem solver. Problem comes up. Let's say you don't have enough money to buy a property. Well, that's a problem. Let's figure it out. We can figure it out. We don't have the right people in place. That's a problem. We need to figure it out. So what I've realized was that I need to be a problem solver and push through, which I would say determination, perseverance. In fact, one thing that I teach my kids, I have 5 kids, I teach them in case something ever happens, we're like, well, Dad, I don't know how to do that. I say, well, you're a Heiner. What do Heiners do? Because I taught them this. Heiners figure things out. And so whenever they say, but Daddy, I don't know. I said, well, you're a Heiner. What do Heiners do? They figure it out. I'm like, yes, that's what we do. We need to figure out because in the end, when you solve problems for yourself or other people, you get better and better and better. So for me, it's problem solving as well as being determined to not let anything stop me.
How do you define that word, success?
Every single person, in fact, I've coached, like I said, thousands of students now. Everybody, their goals, their risk tolerances, their financial situations, everybody's different. Success is in the eye of the beholder. So what I find a success for me was not working for somebody else and having freedom of time, money in my life so that I did not have to answer to somebody else. That's my version of success. Now, everything I do now, since then, I think we got 30 plus properties, 750 apartment units. We have hotels that we invest in. We have multiple businesses. All that stuff is because I have 40 plus hours of my life not working for somebody else to build more businesses for myself.
by that definition, do you consider yourself successful?
That's a great question. And the reason why is I learned this about 2 or 3 years ago. So in my mastermind, personal mastermind, just 3 other guys and myself, I got us all together. We went through a wheel, and think of a wheel where there's different categories on this wheel. It could be health, religious, or, philosophical to spiritual to business, all that sort of stuff. And as I'm going through this wheel, you want to rank yourself from like 0, nothing, like, oh, I'm really horrible, to 10, like I'm full. Well, as I'm going through this entire wheel, filling out each one of these, like health, I'm pretty good, like health wise. I could be better, but I'm good. And I keep going through all of them. And then I get to business. Then I realized in my life, I marked myself down as like a 2, even though 10 years ago, I would see myself like, man, Dustin, 10 years, or 2 years from 10 years from now, you'd be a 10. What happened for me was I realized it's like climbing a mountain. You start at the base, you start climbing the mountain, you see the top right there. You're like, man, I see the top, let me keep climbing. And then you get to the top. This is for me how I marked myself. This was 2 years ago, even though after I had everything going on, great stuff going on, I marked myself as a 2, because once I got to that top, I realized, oh my goodness, this was just the first step on the next path. I got to the top, looked up, congratulated myself. Sorry, looked at back and said, this was great. Look what I did. But then I saw the new top. I said, oh my goodness, I see much more. But every single time I get to that new rung or that new plateau or that new top, I stop and I realize, oh, I didn't see this new top that I'm hitting at. So now I find myself at like a 3 again. It seems like I grow, get to a 10, then I get to that 10. I'm like, there's more to do, or there's more people to help. And it gets right back to it too, which is what keeps me driving forward.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about entrepreneurs is our goals grow.
Mm-hmm.
We reach the top, the pinnacle, whatever it is that we try to accomplish, and then the clouds part, and you can see another pinnacle, and they're going to grow. Well, before we carry on, I need to talk to the listeners about our sponsor for today's episode. If you're looking for an innovative way to communicate your value to your prospects, your clients, your employees, try out Dubb. TheRealJasonDuncan.com/Dubb. That's spelled D-U-B-B. I've been using Dubb as a platform to communicate my value through email videos since they came out, I think 2018, 2019. They've been around a long time, and they're the best in the industry at doing what they do. They have an entire CRM built into it if you want to use that. But if you just want to send amazing emails that communicate your value to prospects, to people you're reaching out to, maybe potential investors, whatever it is, go check out Dubb. You can get your first 2 months at 50% off, plus you get a free trial. TheRealJasonDuncan.com/Dubb. That's spelled D-U-B-B. Big thanks to Ruben and Darius and all the guys over at Dubb for being a longtime sponsor of the show. All right, Dustin. So in today's competitive real estate market, especially in expensive cities, I know because you talked about where you are in investing, what innovative approaches do you teach your investor students to help? Because we live in one of the most expensive real estate markets in the country right now here in the Nashville area. How do you deal with that?
People will be asking me, and they do ask me right now, hey, interest rates are really high. How do we invest? Prices of homes are really high. How do we invest? I'll say it this way. I don't pay my mortgage on any of my properties. I don't pay my taxes. I don't pay my insurance. I don't pay my property managers. Like, I don't have to get a job to do that, to pay for all this sort of things. My properties pay for them. So I don't buy a property unless the taxes are afforded, the property manager, the contractors, the repairs, the mortgage. And that's the thing that I find that's our competitive advantage when I coach students is we buy the property from day one, making sure we're making money in passive income. So when you think of, oh my, Dustin, prices are so high, interest rates are so high, I'm going to be paying, let's say $2,000 a month in mortgage or 25, whatever it might be. I'm like, well, if you make sure you buy it right, the rents are going to cover that. Because remember, I don't pay any of that stuff. Like I don't have to get a job to pay that. Just like any business, we account for all of our expenses. And then we make sure we're making passive income. One quick tip that I will give, if you, being a business owner, do not make money on your properties every single month, like that's how I feed my family is from our rents that come in. If you don't make money, then you're going to get crushed if, just like in 2008, something happens. And sadly, a lot of people lost properties and I bought them up, as many as I could. But here's what you do. You make sure that is an expense. Your passive income, the money that you're going to make is an expense in your list of all the mortgage, property management, taxes, insurance. Like you add your income in there as an expense
Your
so that
personal
you know
income.
personal income,
Personal income.
what you want to make. Because you don't want to guess that you're making money. You, as best as you can, you want to know that you're going to make money. One quick last thing I'll say, because you might be thinking, well, Dustin, how do I know? The reason why is because I hire, and I teach my students, we hire experts. These experts are going to tell us how much we could rent it for. In fact, this is sadly, I get some people say, Dustin, I bought a property, spent thousands of dollars to fix up the property, spent thousands of dollars to buy it, found a tenant, and then I tried to find property managers to manage the property. Everyone I called would tell me, no, I won't manage it because I'll get shot there. Like, oh, you no longer have an asset, you have a liability. I said, how much better would it be if you build a business, instead of going that route, you say, property manager, because you already found them, they're experts. I'm looking to buy, not I bought this one.
Yeah.
I'm looking to buy this property. Tell me how much it will rent for. What's the vacancy factor? What's the clientele like? Will you manage it? If they say no, then you don't buy it, wasting time and money. But if they say yes, this is all the income and expenses that you're going to get, then you buy the property, you put it into your business. Does that make sense?
I think that's great advice. Looking back on your journey, Dustin, all the years that you've been doing this, what if there's one decision that you could change from your early investing days, what would that be?
It got me to where I'm at now. But like I said, my property manager stealing from me, I've looked at and this is why I beat that drum. I'll kick this horse all day, every day. Stop being an investor, become a business owner. Because I looked at my one property as a business, because that's what the quote unquote gurus would say. My property is not my business. My business owns the inventory. Because I went that route, I was losing money. But as soon as I realized this is a business, I'm only buying for cash flow. Again, the appreciation will come. In fact, one great thing I love to do is I take the equity out of my properties in a tax-free loan. Like if I sell it, I no longer have that property anymore making me money. How much better is if I want that equity to buy more properties, I refinance it. Tax-free loan. And I'm literally doing it right now. So 6 properties, to cashing out, I think $600,000, which I'm then going to buy more real estate with it. But that $600,000, my mortgage would be $3,000. Well, those 6 properties make me like $8,000 a month. So the mortgage is paid for. I still make money, and I now have $6,000. I'm going to buy more property. So in the end, when you build a business that makes you cash flow, then every single time that you're going to buy the next property, it's going to make you more money and make you more wealthy.
Best book you say people should read if they're going to be in real estate?
Oh, okay. You added that clarifier. Usually when people ask the best book, for me, it's the Bible. By far, that's the number one book you should ever read. But when it comes to real estate, that's a really good one. I have a book, but I won't plug that. I would say if it comes down to, if I were to give anybody ideas for real estate, I really like The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clausen. Now, it's not necessarily real estate. It's about overall financial principles. And what I found, it'd be like if I teach somebody just like buy a property and this is how you do it, it'd be like giving somebody the keys to your Porsche that didn't know how to drive, didn't know anything, but I said, here are your keys, go ahead and run with it. They're going to get hurt. Instead, you need to have the financial principles in order to build in. So once you know the financial principles, real estate becomes really easy.
All right. So Richest Man in Babylon, read it. It's a great book, large book. It's better to listen to it. I like to listen to that book. Worst real estate advice you've ever heard?
Oh, well, it has to be hands down, invest for appreciation. Invest that you are speculating, hoping that the value goes up. Well, I realized back in 2006, when I first started investing, my family cannot eat the appreciation. Like I can't feed my family. I definitely can't quit my job with the appreciation. So that's the worst advice I would ever say is if you just speculate, you could get hurt. Instead, have that business making you money.
Worst investment you've made? Real estate investment.
I'll be completely honest. I'm gonna say I do not have one out of all the properties that I've owned, other than no. Honestly, they all make me money because the premise of not going for appreciation. That's what people got hurt in 2008 when the crash happened. In fact, anytime people go for appreciation or hoping that the value goes up, they get hurt. But honestly, every property that I buy and all the students that I coach, we do not buy the property unless it makes us $300, $400, $500 a month in passive income. And one quick, you asked a question in expensive markets, how do we make sure we make money? It doesn't have to be a long-term tenant, 12 months. It could be midterm, 30, 60, 90 days. It could be short-term, Airbnb. It could even be co-living, which co-living is going to start taking off. On affordability on homes. Millennials, Gen X or Z now, they're totally fine with sharing houses. So there's lots of ways to make money in real estate.
All right. So tell people how to get in touch with you if they want to look at Master Passive Income, they want to listen to your podcast. What's the best way to get in touch?
So my goal is to help 1 million people to invest in real estate. Do you mind if I give everybody a free course? They can just get started?
Love it.
Awesome. So if you text the word rental, RENTAL, rental to 33777. Rental to 33777. I'll literally give you my course completely for free. People get it all the time and start investing. Or you go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. Show you how to buy a property anywhere in the country, scale your business to be able to become financially independent, quit your job. You could also find me, the Master Passive Income podcast. Like I said, 90% is just solo show, me teaching how to do this. You could also find me. I enjoy social media, surprisingly enough. So I'm on Instagram, the Dustin Heiner. And I'm not that arrogant being the Dustin Heiner. It's just the only handle I could come up with. But
It's okay.
YouTube, podcasting, anywhere that you would look up real estate investing. And one thing, quick thing, I got to brag on this. Super excited. In Apple Podcast, if you look up real estate investing, I come up number one.
Wow.
on Apple Podcast. I'm like, this is so awesome. So it's just a blessing to help 1 million people invest in real estate. More than likely, Jason, I'll never get there, meaning I'll never quantify. Okay, I hit the millionth one, but it's a goal that I realize that if I serve that many people, their lives are going to get better. My life's going to get better.
Congratulations on all your success. And I'm really, really glad that you're here on the show today.
Thank you, brother.
Well, there you have it. Another successful entrepreneur about his journey to success. And I've got a new segment coming here at the end. So don't tune out just yet. I think you're going to find this interesting. But here's what I want to point out from Dustin's, the interview I just had with Dustin. First of all, if you're investing in real estate, don't invest for appreciation, invest for cash flow. And honestly, it's refreshing to hear him say that, because as a real estate investor, certainly not as prolific as he is, but as a real estate investor, I've had the problems in the past where I tried to invest for appreciation and that almost never works out. So I like that he's given that advice. I also want to encourage you to go check out that course, masterpassiveincome.com/free course, right? Masterpassiveincome.com/free course. Take that free course, dip your toes in, see what it's like. And then if you want to come to Rubicon, go to one of his events, go check that out. He's obviously, as you just heard, he's genuine. He's done it. And he's on a mission to help people. So yeah, he's making money at doing it. What's wrong with that? But he's on a mission to help people do that. So go check out Dustin Heiner. Okay, now it's time for a new segment of The Root of All Success. Welcome to a new segment of The Root of All Success. We're going to be including this because I think it's something that you'll find interesting. This is JD's Public Service Rants. And today I want to talk about something that I think bothers everybody. So hear me out. If someone honks at you while you're driving and tells you to put your phone down, you need to smile, nod, wave, and put the doggone phone down. And here's the thing. They might be on their phone too. We've all been there. We all do it, but put it down. So take the loss, and move on. And for all you folks who are driving steel cages out there, those of us who are on motorcycles, if we tell you to put your phone down in traffic, you better do it, because your LOL on a TikTok video could cause both of us to have a very last ride ever. And we don't want that. So put your phone down when you're driving, even if the person telling you to put it down has a phone in their hand, put it down. Let's all move on. Let's not make this our last drive. Hey, thanks for Dustin Heiner being here on the show. And make sure you tune in again next week when I talk to another successful person about their journey to success. As always, I'm the real Jason Duncan. Thank you for listening, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners.
Attention business owners.
Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.